Hi there, welcome to my webinar, How I Reversed My Child's Juvenile Arthritis. I'm so happy to have you here with me so I can share with you how you too are going to be able to transform your child's health with the three-pronged method that I use to reverse my child's arthritis, as well as dozens and dozens and dozens of my clients have been able to get the exact same results. First, before we get started, again, welcome. My name is Star Penn. My mission in life is helping families like yours reverse juvenile arthritis and really, quite frankly, any autoimmune disease or challenge that you or anyone in your family might be facing. And we do this with the same three-pronged healing method that I'm going to share with you in this webinar. So first, what is the challenge that we are all facing today? Really, quite frankly, it is bizarre, outlandish, unbelievable that so many children are affected by autoimmune conditions. This includes neurological issues, behavioral issues, any kind of chronic health challenge that your children are facing. Really, quite frankly, are unprecedented for our times. It is at epidemic proportions. And so we are up against something much bigger than ourselves, and quite frankly, something much bigger than even large medical communities even really know how to properly address, because really this epidemic, again, I'll use the same terminology, is really taking us all by storm, and it's really coming out of nowhere, and it's coming out really fast. So we do know that these things are on the rise. We do know, and you probably have already looked into conventional treatments, which absolutely can help to reduce your child's pain and inflammation. But also the challenge is that we know that these medications are really only masking our child's symptoms. They do not, unfortunately, get to the root cause of our child's juvenile arthritis, which then in turn never addresses any of the real underlying issues or heals them. So we end up just kicking the can down the road, so to speak, with our child's health, because we may not have to deal with it 100% now if we're able to get our children out of pain, but we will eventually have to deal with it because, unfortunately, all we're doing is putting a Band-Aid on it. And then, of course, we have the challenge of having so much information because of the internet and being able to explore things ourselves, which is a really wonderful thing, but it can be very overwhelming, especially when the information and the advice that we get conflicts with one another, or if there are holes, or if people seem to be selling products to, heal certain elements of what's going on. It definitely seems like a landmine out there, if I, could, that's the way I would explain it anyway. But it really leaves us more frozen because we have a ton of information, but really we're left not knowing what step to take forward. And it is my goal and is my hope that after viewing this webinar, it will be very clear to you what it is that you need to do in order to reverse your child's arthritis. And I really do hope that the answer will seem quite clear to you as well, because that really is so important that it makes sense and that it is feasible and it's something that we can follow. So here is where I'm going to discuss with you my three-pronged approach. So in today's methodology, whether you're going natural or a more medical, pharmaceutical direction, we're really just looking, a lot of the traditional ways of going about it, again, both natural or medical, is looking at inflammation and reducing inflammation. And we go so much further than that because we realize that inflammation is really just a symptom. It's not the arthritis itself. And so there, with the first thing that we're looking at there is the gut. And this is something that you probably already have heard plenty about because it has become quite a buzzword and quite popular these days, which again is really great that more and more people are becoming aware, but it can also open it up to have it becomes a catchphrase, seal the gut, heal the gut, it's a leaky gut, and with that come a lot of quick fixes out there which really don't do the job. Not only that, even in the natural community, there's an overemphasis on sealing and healing the gut, and no emphasis on prong 2, which is detoxifying the body. And we're going to get more into that, but in the next couple pages in this webinar. But it's great that we're sealing and healing the gut. We have to do that because that is where the toxins are getting into your child's bloodstream in the first place. It's via permeable holes in, microscopic holes in your child's gut where toxins are able to seep out, getting into the bloodstream, getting into the body. So it's great to seal and heal it, but we have to take in mind that there are already toxins in our child's body, and they're already there, and currently they are circulating in our child's body. They're not purging, because if they were, we would not have arthritis. So we know our children need detoxing, and we know they need gentle detoxing because they're just children. And then we take it a third step further to where we really are affecting the genetic code of our child. We are looking at their DNA, how their immune system has turned on to go after these toxins in the body, which is great because it's detected toxins in the body. But now what do we do? How do we turn these turned up autoimmune responses off? Right? These are some things that maybe you've never thought about and definitely aren't really talked about, but it goes way beyond sealing and healing. We have to detoxify. We have to clear the toxins out and rebuild the detox organs in the body. But then what about the immune system that now is triggered on? How do we turn it off? And by following these 3 prongs, this is how we are getting these results in the JIA Blueprint. So why does this method work? Well, take a look at that picture, right? Look at this is sometimes the kind of help and assistance that we need, hand to hand, face to face. And that really is what is provided to you in the JIA Blueprint. Number 1, as mentioned before, we are focused on the root cause of inflammation, not on the inflammation itself. That is probably the biggest problem in the autoimmune community, is the hyper focus on inflammation, which again is just a symptom, and it's actually our body's alarm system letting us know that there are indeed toxins in the body. What we end up doing, and what a lot of natural practitioners and medical tend to focus on, is how do we stop the inflammation? So basically, how do we turn off the fire alarm but not put out the fire? So we are going deeper. We are looking at why is the fire alarm going off? And let's get to that. Let's put out the fire, not just the alarm. We're also rebuilding the body, as I mentioned, by way of detox, and we're rebuilding it so that it will be able to start to heal itself again. Right now, our child's body is in a chronic state of sickness because these toxins are just circulating throughout their body. Not only that, but the internal gut lining is just been so beat up and destroyed that it can't even absorb nutrients right now at this point. So by taking care of all these things in a systematic, gentle, yet in a way that is very proactive, but gentle because we're dealing with a child, we are rebuilding our child's body so it can start to heal itself again, no longer needing interventions like this or what's offered in other areas and from other sources. But we want to build our child's body so it can become a self-healing, self-cleaning, self-regulating system again. And so the way that we do that is the blueprint provides a very clear framework for you to follow. However, the framework is completely adaptable. It's set up in such a way that that everything that we do has a purpose and a need and a time and a place. But we tailor this to your exact child's unique needs, not just on a on a personal basis because of how your child is today, but how your child is responding every day, every minute throughout the day to our tailored approach. Because we are able to work so closely together in in the way that we implement the protocol as a team, we leaps and bounds are able to really harness this healing, because we don't just go about doing the same thing over and over and over again, not knowing if it's working. So I'll just, by way of comparison, if you do go to a practitioner, whatever protocol that you're given in the office that day is the protocol that you're going to follow day in and day out until you see them again. This is regardless of how your child's responding, if they're responding at all, if there's any kind of a reaction. You really don't have that ability to make any change until you get back into the office again and run tests again and do everything again, which many times causes us to burn out. We feel like we're wasting our time and our money. We probably aren't getting the results that we would like because we left the office with a protocol that maybe was good for 3 days or a week or a month and not for the whole time. The way that we are able to work together in the blueprint, I'm able to help you to adjust and adapt on a minute-to-minute basis and respond to your child's body and what it is saying that it needs from us in any given minute. And because we're able to do this, and because we're able to work so closely, this is why the children in the JIA Blueprint get such rapid healing. And so inside the Blueprint, not only do you have access to me and all of my regular support and coaching, we also have tons of expert guidance, and we're full of a whole bunch of families and a community of moms, families just like yours, who are currently in lifetime getting these same real world results that I'm talking about here. So let's break down these 3 prongs and why we need to focus on these 3 prongs and why this is the way to do it. The first prong I mentioned before, we seal and heal the gut. And as we know, we've probably heard this, I got the number 70% of the immune system resides in the gut, but I've heard percentages of even higher, anywhere from 80% and up, maybe even 90%. And so if that much of our immune system is in our gut, it is obvious, it's pretty obvious that it is key that focusing on the gut would make a huge difference in our child's health. So a leaky gut is pretty much it's problematic right now. You and your other family members, your other children are probably dealing with having a leaky gut as well. This is not something rare. This is not something that we just catch, but it is systemic, and it is something that worldwide as a community, as a global community at large, but especially in some of the more developed Western countries, this is something that is very prevalent right now. It's lending itself to all sorts of inflammatory and autoimmune symptoms, some that you may or may not be experiencing, or you may be noticing that people around you are. And so we really do need to focus on the gut, and this is one of the key cornerstones to beginning to get that healing that we're after. So the way that we do this is we are really focusing on nutrient-dense foods. We are definitely avoiding all processed foods completely, and we're learning how to really go back to the basics. But, of course, it's much more than that. Nutrient-dense foods could mean a lot of things to a lot of people. You've probably heard of a lot of people talking about bone broth if you're looking into gut healing and things like that. And we really don't do bone broth. What we do is a meat stock, and there are reasons for that. But we really want the foods that are going to have the most bang for their buck as far as delivering the nutrition that our children's bodies need at this crucial time in their growth and development and in their healing. So we're focusing on the foods that we are going to eat. We're avoiding certain foods, which a lot of people are already avoiding a lot of these foods and maybe already eating really well and not getting these results. And that has a lot to do with following all 3 prongs of this healing protocol and not just the one. But we do need to completely rebuild the gut. We do need to avoid foods that are going to interfere with the work that we're trying to do, and then not just rebuild the gut, but really every single organ in the body. All right, the second prong, as we talked about before, we really need to focus on detox. This is a very underutilized protocol. It's not really talked about very often, and sometimes there's a lot of like fear and taboo around it, as if it's somehow dangerous. And I don't want to say that lightly, because obviously when we're dealing with a child, we want to make sure that we are being gentle in whatever we're doing. Nothing that we do in our endeavors to heal our child's body should be heavy-handed at any point in time. We absolutely could cause more harm than good by pushing detox in and of itself too hard, too fast, too soon. So I do want to say that. However, it is super important. If we take a look at that picture there, that's, if you think of debris getting out of the gut, you know what's in the gut, getting out of the gut and into the clean blood, into the clean bloodstream. We're looking at a situation like that picture there. That is what our child's blood, maybe even our blood, looks like right now. Obviously, it's an illustration, but just think of the toxins that exist in our gut and how they could get out. And what would we expect of a healthy immune system to do if it saw that? Well, we would expect it to try to clean up, and we would expect it to let us know that it sees toxins in the body and therefore send signals to us that we see as inflammation and flares. But this is our child's body trying to let us know, hey, look, this picture here, this is what I'm dealing with. So how do we do that? How do we detox our child's body safely and in a way that can best support all the other work that we're doing by healing and sealing the gut? Well, we want to look at all of the detox organs, not just one. We know we have the skin is a major detox organ, which isn't listed here, but we have the liver as a major detox organ, the kidneys, the colon, the lungs, and the skin. Okay, so we have several ways that we can be getting toxins out of the body gently, systematically, and in a way that can help his or her body to start to rebuild itself again. So we look at this picture here of all this debris and think about the detox organs as sort of a filter, like you would look at the air conditioning unit in your home. And if you didn't change that filter regularly, what would it look like when you pulled it out? If you waited 3 months, 6 months, a year, or whatever, it would look disgusting, a lot like this. And what we would say is that, you know, we could even back up the system and break it by not taking care of it. So picture your child's detox organs as extremely backed up, and that's why all of this debris is floating around in their bloodstream and not getting out. So not just is the colon backed up, even if they are making a bowel movement every day, it doesn't matter. Their liver's backed up, their kidneys, their gallbladder, all of these organs in the body that their function is to help expel toxins out of the body, they are backed up with debris. So at first we need to do this quite manually. And we do that with very gentle methods. Some I've listed here. We use detox baths, we drink herbal teas, so we utilize enemas in the blueprint, and we also incorporate intentional breathing to the extent that your child is old enough to understand. As a culture, we are very shallow breathers, and believe it or not, our lungs are our biggest detox organ, even bigger than our colon, believe it or not. And there have been studies to even show the amount of inflammation that can be reduced in a person with just simply 1.5 to 3 minutes of intentional deep breathing a day. So all of this is, of course, going to be very individual to your child, to your family, but we do need to focus on detox, and we need to pay attention to when to detox. We can't just be detoxing 24/7, but we really want to listen to our child's body and say when is the right time to do these things. And then, of course, we're always being bombarded with toxins on a regular basis. So, we work on that. We work on that in the blueprint. We want to reduce the environmental toxic load that is coming into us. The EMFs are big. We really are not even sure of the full ramifications of those at this point, but we want to look at all of the household chemicals. We want to look at the cleaning products we're using, the hygiene products we're using, things that we're just every day, whatever's around us. It's good to take a look at some of those things and say, hey, can I do a little better here? And it's not something that we have to go and clear the whole house out all at once, but it's something we systematically and gradually look at and just, make these changes as we're healing our child's body. So that way we can keep the healing going, because we're bombarded. We are just bombarded everywhere we look. So to the extent that we can, reduce these things in our homes and nearby, the better our child will heal. Okay, so let's look at the third prong here. This one is probably the most exciting, maybe something you've never even heard about before, and really what sets the blueprint apart. And it's how we are looking at the immune system. And it's the fact that it has been turned on clearly. And so not just changing the diet, not just getting the organs moving in, but how do we now stop the immune system being turned on? It's great. Let's say you get rid of the inflammation, you get rid of the toxins, you seal the gut, you heal the gut, everything's clean, but you still got these immune system markers that are flipped on, like ready to go. This is huge. This is the study of epigenetics. It's a newer science as far as sciences go, but it's a very exciting avenue and a very exciting study of how the body works and how we can not just balance the body's defenses on a blanketed level, on just surface, but how we can really make change for good in our child's body. So we're looking at the real root causes of what even caused this immune dysfunction in the first place, right? So many people, right, will say, oh, it's a leaky gut. Okay, it's a leaky gut. Why did I get a leak? Why did my kid get a leaky gut? We want to go even deeper. We're living at a time where we're looking at root causes being inflammation, root cause being leaky gut, and that's where it stops. But why? Why the leaky gut? Right? Where we get the inflammation is because of the leaky gut. We got that far. But why the leaky gut in the first place? And so we need to look at these things and see why these things are happening in the first place. And usually these things are happening because of underlying infections that are living rent-free in the body undetected. And these are the types of things that really start to drive the disease in our bodies. We have all of us have underlying infections that are going on. It's not a matter of if they're there, because they are there. It's a matter of to what extent and what is regulating them. So things like H. pylori, Epstein-Barr, even Lyme, the strep virus, all of those things, these aren't things that we catch. These are things that exist in every single human body. We're full of all sorts of stuff down in there, and it's all part of an ecosystem. The problem is because of the EMF, which damages our gut microbiome, things like stress, anxiety, the processed food, the exposure to heavy metals. We can go on and on and on and on. And what this dysbiosis does is not just does it kill the good bacteria, but it allows these worse off bacteria to rise to the forefront. And they're really doing that for a reason. They're really actually trying to help our body, because when the good bacteria go down and the yeast and the heavy metals and things like that start to take over, these underlying infectious pathogens, they come to the fore now. They say, hey, I know how to eat heavy metals. Hey, I know how to get rid of yeast. And then they start to populate very heavily in the gut. And they are definitely a catalyst of what caused the gut to leak in the first place because they don't belong there, and they are depleting our child of nutrition and, you know, being able to absorb from their food. And it really is a domino effect. So by learning certain things that you can do on a regular basis, things like getting that morning sunlight exposure, making sure our children get adequate sleep. We want to, you know, really aid the body in producing its own vitamin D. We don't want to say, oh, we got to take a vitamin D supplement for the rest of their life. So we teach our children different exercises and mindfulness, stress management techniques. The EFT is there, which is the emotional freedom technique. I encourage you to go ahead and take a look and see what that is if you've never heard of it. But by really getting control over these underlying infections, and we're putting them back in their place, and then we're reducing their number and putting them back in their place, and we're completely rebuilding everything else. This is how we get the immune system to say, oh, I don't need to be on anymore. So as long as these underlying infections are still there, the immune system is still going to be alert to doing its job because those guys don't belong there. The amazing thing, the wonderful news that we've gotten out of the study of epigenetics is that the genetics that we get from our parents, our grandparents, whatever it is, it's like getting a loaded gun. It doesn't mean that we have to pull the trigger, and it doesn't mean that the gun is going to necessarily go off. It just means there's bullets in the gun. And so all we need to do is modulate that immune system, calm it down. And what the study of epigenetics is finding is that if we can modulate our child's immune system, meaning take that gun and completely deactivate it, completely disarm it, that if we can get this modulated by the time they turn 19 years old, that the immune system, that their immune system will be locked in for life. That means that they will not develop, nor will they pass on autoimmune disease to their children in the future. And the study of epigenetics is saying anywhere from 6 to 8 generations we can be affecting our children and our grandchildren by doing this work now while they're young. So let's just talk about some of the results in the blueprint. We can't get into every single one of my clients' experiences now, but these are real stories of families that have worked with me in the blueprint and what they've had to say. So here we have Crystal, and this is her journey with her son. She said, my son was diagnosed and has been diagnosed nonverbal autistic. So he was diagnosed with JIA and then nonverbal autistic since he was 18 months old, and he got diagnosed with juvenile arthritis at 10. She says, I found STAR's JIA Blueprint and everything changed. Through the program, his stiffness eased, his energy improved, and at 12 years old, he's free of JIA symptoms and communicating in ways we never thought possible. The blueprint gave me my son back, and I'll be forever grateful. And here we have Nikki's story with her son. She says, when my 3-year-old son was diagnosed with JIA, it broke my heart. His condition affected several joints, including his jaw, making eating and speaking difficult. Nothing mainstream medicine suggested worked. I felt hopeless. It felt hopeless. Then I found STAR's JIA Blueprint. By focusing on detoxing, healing his gut, and rebuilding his health, everything changed. Within months, his swelling went down, his energy returned, and his appetite improved. Now he is symptom-free, active, happy boy, and running and playing like I once feared he never would. The blueprint gave me my son's childhood back, and I'm forever grateful. And let's go here. I have another one, but I think it's down the line. Okay, so now let's talk about the difference here between what we're doing and what we find when we go to a functional doctor and we focus on anti-inflammatory diets. And really why it is that these are all good things that we're doing, but we want to find out why these things fall short, because ultimately we are probably making the biggest decision of our life and our child's life right now when it comes to what road we are going to take to address their arthritis. So let's take a look and see the difference between the temporary results that we can and likely will find going down these routes and that versus the lasting healing that you'll find in the JIA Blueprint. Now, functional medicine and anti-inflammatory diets, they do help initially because they are addressing the symptoms at a surface level. So anytime we change our diet from one that's a standard American diet, doesn't matter if we're going to do vegan, fruitarian, carnivore, anything where we start to remove these processed foods, our body is immediately going to respond in a positive way. And so that makes us think that, hey, we're doing the right thing. This is great. Let's keep it going. And then unfortunately, what ends up happening, because we never really got to the root, and again, when I say root, I'm not just talking about a leaky gut, but because we never get to the root, what ends up happening is that the flare comes back and we start to freak out. And this is really why your rheumatologist is going to either, say, hey, yeah, change their food, that's fine. If food doesn't matter, they might say it does, it's great, change the food, but ultimately they're going to be skeptical, and this is the reason why. Because they see every single time pretty much people who'd say, hey, can we get some time to do this with food, that the kid comes back flared up again. So this is what they're seeing. They're not the bad guy here. They're seeing what they're seeing, and it's real what they're seeing. So, and this is really what ends up happening. And really it ends up being the worst for you as the mom or the dad or the family who's trying to heal, because then it leaves you thinking that the food didn't matter, and you may not continue a life of feeding your child in a nourishing way, or yourself a nourishing way, for all the years to come, because you'll be so disheartened with all the hard work you did, all the dietary changes you made, and then the flare just comes back. And that is what happens, unfortunately, because whether you're using a biologic or a medication or an anti-inflammatory, or if you're using, fruit juices and veggie juices, or all meat diet, or whatever it is you choose to do, both of those are just band-aids. Point blank, they're all just band-aids, because none of them are going to the deep levels that I spoke about in those 3 prongs. They're just dealing with the surface. So really what we need, and unfortunately, what a functional doctor, a naturopathic doctor, a holistic doctor, your, homeopath, herbalist, all play a role. And I encourage you to have all of these that you want to have as part of your team. But unfortunately, none of their practices, including a rheumatologist, none of their practices are set up in such a way to be able to help you to get real time advice and make decisions responding to your child's unique reaction and the way that they're progressing with the protocol. There's no way to make these changes and to get support and help and a response in live time. These practices are all wonderful and all have their place in our child's healing journey. But the reason why we're not getting the healing by just following an anti-inflammatory diet or just having a functional doctor to run tests and give supplements, this is why we're only getting temporary results this way. One of the reasons why is because you don't have anybody there that can help you in a minute-to-minute basis to address your child's needs as they arise. And that really is the key. That really is the key right there. So does it seem hard? Does it seem scary? Does it seem overwhelming? It might, because really, ultimately, I do not have a magic wand in my hand. The blueprint is not a secret sauce. It's not a magic pill. It's nothing like that. You will be healing your child. You will be doing the work, and quite frankly, the work that we do in the blueprint is not for everyone. Just because someone has a child with juvenile arthritis does not mean that they are a fit for the JIA Blueprint. It is my hope that you're a fit for the JIA Blueprint, that you are a fit for the JIA Blueprint, because it is work, and I don't shy away from that. But what I do promise you is that you do not have to do this work alone, and you don't have to figure it all out alone. You have You have my coaching, you have my support on a daily, minute-to-minute basis. You have the method that is proven, it's adaptable, it works. You can apply it to your lifestyle, no matter what that lifestyle is today. You can apply these things and you can start to heal your child today. And not just that, but with the community of support that you have inside the Blueprint, all these other moms who are also healing their kids inside the JIA Blueprint and having that level of support and team with you, these are the tools that you have all at your disposal, and it's all you're ever going to need in order to completely transform your child's health and reverse their juvenile arthritis. There she is. So I also wanted to share with you Danielle's journey with her daughter. She says, when our daughter was diagnosed with JIA, she couldn't even climb stairs without pain and exhaustion. Her dreams of gymnastics and ice skating felt impossible. Then we found STAR's JIA Blueprint. With STAR's guidance, we focused on healing her gut, detoxing her body, and rebuilding her strength. Slowly, she improved. First, walking upstairs, then running. Now she's thriving and excelling in gymnastics and ice skating. The Blueprint gave her health and her dreams back, and we couldn't be more grateful. So if after watching all of this, if the information that you listened to today finally gave you some confidence that there is hope at the end of the tunnel, if puzzle pieces came together and you started to get clarity, if any bit of what I said today here made sense where other theories, other approaches, other ideas did not, then you're probably wondering, how do I get started? And so the first step for you to do that is for us to get on a call. Really, not only for you to determine if the JIA Blueprint is a good fit for your family, but also for me to determine if your family is actually also a good fit for the JIA Blueprint. Because not everybody who has a child with arthritis or an autoimmune disease is, quite frankly, a good fit for what we do inside the program. So if you are looking for lifetime access to all the support, guidance, and direction that you need in order to completely reverse your child's juvenile arthritis and your entire family's autoimmune issues and other conditions, then you should book a call with me today. So just hang out to the next screen and you will see a link where you can book a personalized phone call, a free phone call with me today. Okay, bye-bye.